So, welcome everybody. This is the second episode of our series specialized on the tech in the hospitality space. My name is Simone Puerto. Some of you know me for my articles, and today I am here with Jonathan Rojas. I hope I pronounced it right. Is that correct? Great.
That is
Guest experience growth manager at Cloudbeds and co-founder at Whistle Messaging. Jonathan, can you tell us a little more about yourself and what you did in the past and what you're actually doing now in the space?
yeah. Thank you for the introduction, Simone. Hi guys. As Simone stated, my name is Jonathan. I was the former co-founder of Whistle Messaging. We created a guest engagement solution that allowed guests to connect with their hotel through messaging. We recently were acquired by Cloudbeds, so now I lead guest experience growth here at Cloudbeds.
Are you going to maintain the name, or is it going to become like the Cloudbed messaging or something like that? If you can answer
Yeah,
that.
as of right now, the name Whistle has a lot of brand equity. We were well known in the industry. We powered over 1,000 hotels. So as of now, we're continuing with the name, continuing with with that strong brand presence that we had in the hospitality industry. Our goal was always to make it a household name within hospitality, and I think we were close to achieving some of that. So Cloudbeds obviously acknowledges that. So we've definitely kept the name so far.
That's great. And then we got Catherine Murphy. Catherine, welcome. Owner at the Murphy Dublin Hotel, right?
That's all right. Thank you, Simone. Great to be here.
So, can you tell us a little more about your experience in the space and what you're trying to build? Because as far as I understood, the hotel is not open yet, right?
That's right. We're currently out to tender, so we have to physically build our property. It's going to be an art gallery and 28-room boutique hotel, with a very automated contactless customer journey. So I'm currently putting together our tech stack and looking at how that's going to affect our customer journey and guest communications and so on. As I was telling you earlier, we managed a smaller property as a kind of a little test run, which went very well. It's been closed down now, but we're really excited to get going on this and turn our vision into reality, I suppose.
That's pretty cool. And again, I think it's somewhere where I would really love to sleep. So next time I'm in Dublin, when is the opening date again?
Well, I can tell you more in a few weeks, but we're hoping maybe Q1 2024. So we look forward to welcoming you.
Okay, so we got some time. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we got some time.
Great.
We can talk.
So thank you so much for being with me today. And today I just want to discuss a little with you about some of the misconception that I think we still have in our industry, especially when it comes to hospitality. And I've seen, I published a book about it, and I always feel that for some reason that I cannot quite understand, it looks like there is this dichotomy between human touch and technology, right? Like if these are two complete different things. But I don't think this is exactly the case. I just want to make sure that that I'm not wrong, or if I am wrong, just prove me wrong. I would be more than happy. And but whenever we talk about tech in the hospitality space, I like to quote from a movie that you probably saw, and that's the Grand Hotel Budapest, right, by Wes Anderson. And if you haven't, I think if you're working in the space, you need to watch the movie. It's super funny. And there is a quote from the movie that always resonates with me, and they're talking about lobby boys, and it goes something like, "What is a lobby boy? It's somebody that is invisible yet is always in sight, remembers what people likes, what people hate, and anticipate the client's need." And I always love that, because if you take the word lobby boy and you change it with technology, basically you have exactly my view on what technology should do in the hospitality space. So it should be something that is like a little behind the curtain in a way, but it's making the life of human easier, and that is not only the travelers and the guests, but the team as well. So Jonathan, I will start with you. Do you agree with this analogy, or you think I'm totally outside here?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great analogy. I think you hit it, home with that. It was pretty much one of the reasons why my co-founder and I, started Whistle in the early days, about 7-8 years ago now. We found a major pain point within the hospitality industry, and it related to the guest experience and guest communication. The biggest gap that we found then, and the real value add that we positioned messaging to be, because 7-8 years ago, people were scared to text their guest, right? It wasn't common, it wasn't the norm. But what we found was that travelers were not engaging with their hotels, and we somewhat became silent travelers, and they would have a negative experience at the property and wouldn't voice their concerns while they were on the property. And at the time, social media platforms, review platforms were all on the rise. So, guests were feeling more comfortable on voicing their concerns and, writing negative reviews, but didn't give the opportunity to really give the property the opportunity to rectify any wrong that happened during their stay. And that's because these guests were a little bit more introverted, didn't like confrontation, right? And just found it easier to voice these concerns on the internet, where it was a little bit more of a safer space in the comfort of their home, or whenever they decided to do that. So we introduced messaging into the space, where we found that these type of travelers would rather and prefer to engage with the hotel through these messaging mediums, which were less invasive, very convenient and easy, and they can do it at their own time, right? They don't have to be tied to in-room phone, walking up to the desk, or anything like that. Simply using their own mobile device that they utilize so frequently to simply message the hotel. And then from there, it's kind of grown. Messaging has evolved in the space, has now become one of the norms and preferred methods of communication for travelers. I think it said that only 25% of guests report issues, and 42% of respondents would return to a hotel if they were able to turn a poor experience into a positive one. So I think, one of the things I learned early on from a professor at the University of Cornell, one of the top hospitality schools, he told me that, the guests would remember their stay more if they had a really negative experience that was then turned into a positive experience. They're more likely to remember that the hotel went above and beyond to, make whatever wrong was, turn it right. That was something that was going to stick and resonate with them, and they're more likely to return in that fashion, right? Where opposed to people just kind of experiencing a, good stay, maybe not super spectacular, but may not remember that in the long term. So I think having that opportunity to really communicate with the hotel is very valuable.
Yeah, and it kind of anticipated my next point, because we were talking before the panel about this pretty interesting research by Ulrike Gretzel, that is a researcher at the University of Southern California. And she wrote a couple of essays that are really worth reading in my book. And again, I can probably add them on the panel link at the end of the show. And one of the things she says, and I agree 100%, it's basically exactly what you're saying. It's just, she came to that conclusion after a lot of research, is that the assumption that guests prefer human contact, face-to-face contact, is not always valid. You will always have the introvert, or you will have somebody that will also feel bad, like calling you at 4 a.m. in the night to get an extra towel, right? And when you do it through a messaging system, even though there's a human on the other side, that probably looks a little less negative, in a way. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. That could also be another convenient factor for, if you have other travelers in the room with you and maybe they're sleeping at 4 a.m. and you don't want to wake them up by picking up the phone, calling down the front desk, right? You can just take out your cell phone, send a quick text, and expect those things to be delivered.
I haven't
I
thought
think
about
it's
that, but
really,
you're right.
what Jonathan's saying is really interesting about kind of not just using messaging as a kind of a functional thing, but also to develop a relationship with the guest. You kind of have an opportunity to reach out to them and engage them in a way that's not forcing them to, come to front desk or pick up the phone or whatever. And I think as well, often if you're staying in a hotel and you're faced with the prospect of a queue to talk to the receptionist or even on the phone, it can be quite off-putting. There's a famous saying, if you're explaining, you're losing. And I think if a guest is waiting in hospitality, you're losing. So if you're kind of giving them an opportunity to engage with you on their own terms, I think that's a really valuable thing and can, really foster that kind of, even though it's kind of counterintuitive, it's not face to face, but you are actually creating a more human connection, but through the medium of messaging. I think that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I think Catherine made a great point on, leveraging messaging in that fashion. We also allow properties to, message guests prior to their arrival, right? So the experience now starts prior to them arriving to the hotel. So you've already delighted the guest before they've even arrived. You've maybe helped them put some things into place that streamlines their check-in and different things like that. That really just helps smoothen the overall experience before the guest even arrives at the property.
Yeah, and you have the opportunity to be proactive. So, particularly if you know that someone's, for example, traveling for business, you can tailor the information that you're sending to them to kind of ease their trip and kind of give them some things to look forward to. So that's also a really, really great opportunity.
Yeah, because Catherine, to me, is always about giving the guest a choice. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me that in a lot of different industries, that is already the case. Like, think of airport, for example. Okay, when you have to fly, you don't go to the airport 3 hours before because you want the human connection with whoever is giving you the ticket, right? But this is not the case with hospitality. And to me, and I've been in this space for 25 years now, unfortunately or fortunately, the problem the problem is always the same, that we tend to probably have a misconception about what the human touch really is. Because scanning a passport or checking somebody in, or that is logistics. That's the logistics of travel. That has nothing to do with hospitality. Would you agree with this statement, Catherine, or not?
Oh, like 100%. I never want to fill in I never want to stand there and fill in a form or have to spell out my email address or call out my telephone number. What's enjoyable about that? It's not like, I mean, things are definitely getting better. You can check in. You have the choice of checking in online. Personally, I'm really excited about the idea of decentralized identity and all the being able to just share your verifiable credentials at a click of a button. I think that's incredibly exciting. Unfortunately, we're not there yet, but I think that's the future. Is just making things, what you were talking about earlier, Simone, about making technology is becoming invisible. I think that's the goal, really, and the sooner we get there, the better, frankly.
One thing that I always think about when I see hospitality, and it's I like to make this comparison with Uber. And when you think about Uber in some cities, and again, I lived in Paris for 7 years. Uber is sometimes more expensive than normal taxis, right? But I still prefer Uber over taxis. And that is for one simple reason, that basically all the logistics goes away. It's just you get on the cab, you get out of the cab, You don't have to take your credit card out. It's all managed. It goes straight to my accounting department so they can see where I am, and if I got lost or kidnapped, my wife knows. And but for like when we see it from the perspective of stuff like, taxis or car sharing or even supermarket, that's fine.
Amazon is the classic, one click, to buy something that can arrive the next day. No one can match it. And we're being trained by Uber, by Amazon to expect that level of service. And yet in hospitality, no, you can't do that. Every single hotel, you have to go through the same process every single time. You've got to put in your passport details. You've got to, there's a whole process. When that becomes more streamlined, when it becomes akin to, I suppose Shopify are doing it as well. If a website is built on Shopify, that they're set up to welcome you, but we haven't got that in hospitality, and it's a shame.
Jonathan, do you think this is like a cultural thing? Because I see like a lot of, especially when I talk to clients in Southern Europe, they're really they start to be very sketchy when you start talking about introducing technology. Again, it's a little better after COVID. I think they kind of understood that some of the things they do now can be and should be automated, but it's still this strange dichotomy that I cannot really understand. What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think in some cases it could definitely be cultural. It varies from depending on where you're at. But I think the one thing to do is to make sure that they understand the adoption of technology is more about the enrichment of the experience and not so much of replacing, human hands, but more of like, again, enriching, automating some of that experience and making them more efficient in utilizing technology. So then they can have better guest experiences and take the time to, have more free time to engage with their guests and really provide them with a higher level of service, opposed to having to do some of these little tedious tasks, right, of collecting passports, credit card information, all things that we can kind of automate and ultimately allow them to better get to know the customer and the guest, right, and really provide them with a custom experience, and just removing those kind of mundane, tedious tasks that we're talking about.
Jonathan, can I tell you something? This is like before COVID, I used to travel around 100 nights per year, something like that, 100, 120, right? So multiply this per 10 years, it's a lot of hotels. Yeah. And the only good check-in I do remember was actually a not check-in. So I will not tell you the hotel name, of course, but there was this kiosk. And the guy came to me and told me, look, I can do two things for you. First one is I can check you in. So you give me your passport, your credit card, blah, blah, blah. Or you check in by yourself and we share a drink. And I said, sure, I do it myself. The guy came, went to the bar, came back with 2 beers. We sat down for half an hour. That was like never happened to me before for a meeting trip. And but he told me a lot about the culture of the hotel. He told me about, what to do around. And I ended up spending so much money on ancillary revenue in that hotel. And that was just because, to me, that human was doing the work of a human. It was not taking care of, minor tedious tasks. It was just sharing a moment with me. I didn't even remember the name of this guy. We're in touch from time to time. That is unheard of. If I ask you, look, can you remember the face of the last 20 receptionists you've seen? That is probably not the case. Am I right or am I wrong on that?
No, I agree. I think you pretty much, for me, one of my dreams is always to open up a hotel eventually and retire. And that's pretty much the experience that I want to provide. Pretty surprising that it's out there already, but that's awesome. That the industry is evolving already, and we're starting to see that again, right? Not really automating the simplistic tasks, and then really just providing that higher level experience, right? Where that guest service agent gets to know you as the guest, and makes you feel at home, and especially after a long days of travel, right? You're just enjoying a beer, cocktail, whatever it is together. And then also capturing some of those, specific that specific information and about the guest, so you can know, right, whether it's a beer that you want, or maybe it's some whiskey that you want when you arrive, right, to ultimately provide that better experience.
Yeah, if it's whiskey, I think you really had a bad day. But anyway, uh, Catherine, is it something that you're trying? Is it like this kind of philosophy? Is it something that you're trying to replicate in the Murphy Gallery?
Um, I suppose I'm an impatient person. I don't like queuing. So, and for us, the gallery is we, we're trying to share the experience, with art through the property, and it's not a traditional hotel where we don't have a lot, like we have no F&B. We're not trying to get people to the bar or whatever. But what we're trying to do is kind of, I suppose, over deliver in terms of a simple, straightforward, enjoyable, relaxing experience, and just to try and make it really that kind of, I suppose Airbnb have kind of set the bar in terms of a home from home kind of thing. But what we're trying to do is, a replicable experience. With an Airbnb, you're always taking a chance, could be good, could be not so good. So we're trying to bring that kind of luxury of a, a really nice boutique hotel, but with that kind of ease of access, and just making everything straightforward. But like, obviously, the gallery is at the heart of all of that. So we're coming at it from a different place, I suppose.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because remember during the annis terribilis, 2020 and 2021, when pretty much all hotels were closed or closing down, apartments were on the rise, and that was because a lot of people felt it was safer to go to an apartment, right? Because the lack of human interaction. And I think that to a certain extent, this kind of rewired our brain now. And even people that never wanted to deal with an apartment, now they do. And on top of that, they understand that, well, actually finding the key, just pushing numbers and just going straight in the room, that's not really a bad idea, and maybe you don't miss that human contact. So do you think that in a strange, morbid way, we learned something from the pandemic and apartments?
Yeah, I suppose, I think with a lot of things with the pandemic, it's given people an opportunity to reassess what we thought was the right way to do that. Is that really the right way to do that? And I suppose from our point of view, we're trying to kind of, when we're in Dublin, we're in the city centre. We want people to really experience our city. We love it, we want to be able to share all the great places that we like going, all the nice museums, all the great galleries, all the great restaurants that we love. We want our guests to experience that, and messaging is a huge part of that. So I think it's just this opportunity to reimagine what is hospitality. It's just because things have always been done one way, that doesn't mean that's the way that they should be done. So I think, we're really excited about all the possibilities that technology kind of allows in terms of sharing our, I don't know, our vision of Dublin and the Murphy, with people, and it's not just about heads on beds, it's about communicating with people and making them welcome, and introducing them to our world, I suppose.
So going back to the messaging part before I move to the next topic, because that's kind of interesting for me, and of course we got Jonathan, so he can tell us a lot about that. And Jonathan, you've been around since 2005. Is that correct? 17 years?
No, 2014.
So that's 7 years. Sorry, and no, 8 years now. Okay, so like, remember 8 years ago, you were right. Even in day-to-day life, we used to call people, right? And now, I don't know about you, and I'm pretty sure I know about you, Catherine, because I think we're very similar when it comes to that. But when I get a phone call, my initial reaction is always the same. Oh no, God, just send me a message. Okay. So, and I think that to a certain extent, newer generations will be wired that way. I was reading this very interesting book by a philosopher named Chalmers, and he talks about the different layers of reality, right? And the analogic generation that it's us. We still think in binary terms. That's real. Like, okay, face to face, that's real. Messaging, like so and so, and like virtual, no, that's not real. But you knew like the generation alpha, or whatever you want to call it. They play with Roblox today. They play with their friend in the physical environment tomorrow, and for them it's exactly the same experience, right? So do you think that this is a natural evolution, not only of the way we travel, but on the way we actually live and interact with each other?
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely do think it is a natural evolution. I think the pandemic definitely accelerated that and the realization of that, right, in today's world. Going back to talking a little bit about short-term rentals and Airbnb, right? I believe the hotel and the short-term rental models are learning from each other and are now converging in the way they compete for guests in today's market, right? We're now having more digitally savvy travelers, and this is where messaging and guest engagement solutions and other tech allows these hotels to leverage those and provide this experience, right? And like you guys referenced earlier, the Amazon experience, right? The Shopify experience, where it's really streamlined, one click, and those are things that we're now becoming accustomed to. I think the hospitality industry needs to evolve and adopt to that, and we're starting to see that. And again, I think the pandemic definitely accelerated that a lot, and we're seeing more and more technology come into the hospitality space.
Yeah, that makes sense. Catherine, do you want to add something to that before I move on?
Yeah, I think when we're experiencing that in our online shopping, from a guest point of view, just you start to wonder why are you not experiencing that with a hotel? If a Shopify little somebody selling something, website can do it, how come this big brand chain of hotels can't do it? I mean, I know the reason why, but from the guest point of view, it's like, I think there's an expectation that's been set now, and it's kind of up to hotels to kind of meet that expectation.
Yeah, I do agree. Okay, great. Let's move to the next one. This is pretty interesting for me, and there is this report published by the U.S. job market, right? Just last year, and they started surveying people that used to work in hospitality and then after the pandemic left for whatever reason, or they were fired or whatever. And it's interesting that a lot of these people, and we're talking about more than 25%, if I remember correctly, they don't want to go back to the hospitality space. And to a certain extent, I can understand that. It's a tough industry. It's very inflexible when it comes to time schedule. There's a lot of pressure with guests and lack of benefits. The pay is not as high and as it could be on in other industries. And I see it when I teach as well. Most of the schools where I teach, they have a dropout rate that is alarming to a certain extent, right? And I think now we're facing for the first time the labor shortage problem, because we cannot find enough people to work or enough trained people to work, right? And do you think that, first of all, automation can help to reduce this endemic problem? And second of all, do you think that maybe we were overstaffed? We've been overstaffed since just before the pandemic, just because we didn't know that we could automate some of these tasks. Jonathan, let's start with you.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Well, today's automation tools, I believe they're designed to ease the pressure of the staff and kind of, again, augment their work and handling some of those mundane tasks to free them up for more complex, high value things that like interacting with guests and providing an elevated experience. And, you know, I believe that humans, you know, to your point where, you know, if we were overstaffed, I think, you know, we shouldn't have been doing some of that work in the first place. And we should have had technology, you know, automating and streamlining some of those very, very simplistic tasks in, you know, in today's market. So I'm glad we're starting to see a lot of that. And I think automation and technology is helping a lot of that today.
Catherine.
Yeah. To go back to what you kind of started off by saying about what is the reason so many people don't want to come back to hospitality and what role technology plays in that. I think, you know, essentially technology is neutral. You know, it doesn't have any kind of morality. It's how it's applied. So, you know, you have these situations with warehouses where technology is being used to, or even people working remotely, it's being used to kind of monitor people and kind of push productivity maybe too far. You know, that's kind of one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is if technology is used to, you know, to make things more organized, to allow guests to give feedback or have a better connection and therefore be happier and less stressed, to allow the person on front desk, you know, to have a bit of fun talking to guests rather than just a kind of head down filling in a form kind of experience. You know, it's how you use the technology, and are you making your guests experience better, and are you making your staff's job easier to accomplish? You know, everyone at the end of the day wants to feel that they're doing a good job, whether it's, you know, getting a room clean on time or whether it's, you know, whatever your role is, you want to know what it is you need to do, and you want to at the end of the day go home feeling I did my job well. You know, the guests were happy, my manager is happy, everybody is happy, and I feel fulfilled and happy in my job. And I think that as long as you're using technology in the right way to enable guests to have a better experience and to enable staff to do their job better and feel supported and feel organized and on top of things, well, you know, it's an absolute no-brainer. And I think that's the promise that technology brings. When you use it right, it makes everybody's life better, staff and guests alike, you know, and it should make ultimately for a better experience for people to work in.
Just to add to
that, just go, Jonathan, please.
Sorry, yeah, Catherine just reminded me of kind of the old days when I used to work in, you know, old-fashioned front desk agent, guest service agent, some years ago, right? Where, you know, it was pretty much head down approach. You know, customer would come in, we would try to greet them, but I would have a line of maybe 15, 20 check-ins, right? So it's heads down, let me type everything I need to type into the computer, collect their credit card and do all of that to get them to the room to then attend to the next guest. And, you know, I was trying to go as quick as possible, really not so much having those customer touch points and creating a relationship with the customer, because in my mind, it was like the quicker I go, the quicker the guests can get to their room and enjoy their stay. But at the same time, I'm not providing a specific experience to them, right? It was, for me, it was more of like, I don't want them to have to wait in this line, right? Which at the end, they shouldn't have had to wait in that line, you know, to begin with, if we would have just automated some of those tasks and made check-in, you know, a lot more streamlined and simplistic, so we can really focus on the guest relationship. So, you know, definitely you reminded me of those old-fashioned days, Catherine. So I'm glad to see that the industry is changing and evolving, and, you know, that's not so much the case anymore.
Can I add something to that? Because that's an interesting thing. When I started working in the hospitality space, and I was coming from a complete different background. I was studying philosophy, so I wanted to be like a philosophy teacher. And I was 19, and I thought, what is the dumbest job I can get? And I said, let's go and be a receptionist, right? And I understood that that was not so dumb. You know, it took some time. You know, it was pretty hard. But back in the days, and we're talking about 99, receptionists were connecting to the guests. Okay, that was our job, to connect with guests. And I think that because we, of course, guests were less demanding than today, but still the process that entrepreneurs had when hiring people was, okay, are you good with people? And that makes you a fit for hospitality. Now, when you read some of these open positions on LinkedIn, for example, you see like, okay, I'm looking for a front office manager or a receptionist, and it needs to be good at, that's PMS and Excel, and it needs to know 3 different RMSs, and it needs to know that, blah, 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 and whatever it needs to charge credit card. And you got that nightmare, dystopian nightmare that you're saying, Jonathan, head down approach. The only thing you do all day is just, crunching numbers. And I think you're saying that the industry is evolving. I say that the industry is coming back to its roots in a way. So I will not. That's why I don't like to talk about innovation when we talk about hospitality. I think we're just going back to where we should, where we were before, and where hospitality should be. So, Jonathan, do you agree with that? Like, I think we share this past. So, oh, you're mute. You're muted.
Sorry about that. I said somewhat agree with that. I think what happened was similar to the point that you made earlier. I think the guest evolved, right? And all of this other technology that we're surrounded with, again, to Catherine's point of, Shopify, Amazon, Uber, all of these one-click services and that convenience, it trained today's traveler and the guest to expect that experience, right? So by evolve, I mean, in a sense, I agree with you. We're going back to our roots, but at the same time, we're evolving to today's traveler, right? As you said, a traveler 20 years ago didn't necessarily have these expectations, didn't have this experience to them. So they've evolved to, expect these things in their experience. So I think it's a little bit of evolving, and yes, as well, going back to the roots and the experience that we've provided in the past.
Yeah, I was just thinking, Simone, if you go into any supermarket these days, there's kind of a live A/B test going on. You can have an open human manned checkout desk, and you can have an automated one. And some people will just go straight for the automated one every time, and then some people will go and go for the human cashier. But it's interesting that they don't all go for, like, if we all wanted that interaction all of the time, we would all go for the open human cashier. But quite often you'll see people doing the other thing. So,
that's exactly my point. Exactly my point. It's you're giving it, you're A/B testing, so maybe you're pushing a choice. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
But you're still giving a choice.
Yeah.
And this is what we don't have in hospitality. Like, I was in this hotel for probably the 10th time over the last 3 years. So they know me, and every time, and I have a problem. Whenever I reach the hotel, I need to pee. That's the first thing I need to do. It's like my basic urge is to go to the room. And this guy, every single time, the same guy, tells me the whole story of the hotel, and all the families that run the hotel and whatever. Mm-hmm. And it looks like they're completely disconnected from reality. So again, my question is, why some people just don't get it? Do you have an answer for that? I know that's a tough one, huh?
Well, we all bring our own prejudices, I suppose, to like anything in life. But I think, every hotel has its own philosophy and its own thing. And I think you just have to be very clear about what you're offering, especially now that we're kind of in this time of flux, I suppose. So like what we're offering, is going to be really great for some people, and really some people are just not going to get it. Like, they're just not going to be into it. And that's our challenge, is to communicate clearly what we offer, and then kind of, get people to self-select out if they don't like it, because, and I think that's, in some ways, reviews are great for that. All the Google reviews and the TripAdvisor reviews and all of that, because guests are explaining, people do a lot of research now before they arrive. And so with so much choice comes, responsibility of the hotel to explain what their offering is, but also responsibility of the guest to not put their expectation onto something that they're not going to get,
Yeah, a friend of mine used to say that you cannot really oversell in hospitality. You can only under-deliver. and I think it was it was super right when it comes to that. Okay,
Yeah.
very interesting. Okay, we still have a few minutes. I just wanted to ask you something else, and so we're trying to understand the reasons why hospitality is so slow in adopting technology, right? And and I I have a theory. And again, I could be totally wrong, so I would like to see uh, your your thoughts on that. And that is the fact that historically, a lot of hoteliers went into the process of changing their tech stack. And every time it was very painful, right? Especially when it comes to PMSs. Like imagine like old legacy PMSs that, whenever you had to change those, you had to rebuy servers, retrain all the staff, data loss, and you don't know if you can integrate stuff. Maybe you can integrate, but this will be in 2 years with 20,000 euros of charge and so forth. So I think that this created like a cognitive bias in a lot of entrepreneurs that now they think, look, even though I really want to get into the 21st century, I don't want to go through all the pain of changing technology all over again. Jonathan, do you think this is still a problem in our industry, or you think we're past that?
No, I definitely think it's still an issue today. And I think, the past experiences have left a bad taste in people's mouths. So a lot of people are scared of change, right? They don't want to go through this entire experience where it might not be that experience, right? Moving your PMS over to the cloud, doing simplistic things. In my mind, it's simplistic, right? But for those hotels and those operators and owners, it may not be, right? They may not all be as technology savvy and forward thinking as Catherine, where I want to create this awesome, automated tech stack and guest experience. For them, they're used to doing the old fashioned and having the on-premise PMS servers, writing things down on a piece of paper, right? So getting them in the mindset of, this is not going to be a heavy lift, as well as it may be a heavy lift at first, but preparing them for the next 20, 30, 40 years, right? For a long-term vision of like, you're going to have to do this at some point. It's best to be, to do it now and get ahead of it, right? So you can provide that higher level of experience to your guests, and as well as provide a better experience to your staff, right? As you were talking about a little bit earlier, Simone, and that guest service agent that you kept interacting with, and having that kind of mindset of being trained to do the same thing over and over and over. I definitely think in some hotels and some properties that's how a lot of these people operate and think, because it's part of their job task, right?
Yeah, totally. Catherine, you are in a privileged position because you're building it now.
Yeah.
So if you do it right, you will have no problem. You will not have to deal with PMSs built in the 70s, spaghetti code and all that kind of stuff. Okay, but I'm sure that you are selecting tech vendors. You're looking around. Do you think it's an easy process for somebody like, because we had a little chat before this, and you're very tech savvy. But think about like the average hotel person, hotel entrepreneur that doesn't know much about tech. Do you think we make it easy for them to understand what is going on, or not?
It's not easy. It's not, and it's my life is one long demo at the moment, and it's getting these integrations to work together, and it really is, the devil is in the detail, and you can't assume that one system, just because one technology works in a certain way, that another one is going to do that. And you can be 3 meetings in and then you find out, oh, it's just something small, but it will completely trip up everything, and then there's this cascading effect. So I think it's like, you have to be really clear about, before you even speak to one vendor, what you want to do, why you want to do it, and then you've got to sense check it against it. And I suppose I'm in this really like great position in that I've got a complete tabula rasa. I'm starting from complete scratch, so I don't have anything. at the same time, you need some things to pin them around, because otherwise you keep on changing. Am I going to use this access control system? Is that going to integrate with this? Am I going to use this room control system? Is that going to, so it's quite hard. And yeah, it's quite funny for an industry who it's all about, integrating and all that, and automation. I don't understand why there aren't videos, for examples of demos that you can just get at your own pace, or more information about the nitty gritty of how things work. You've got to have a demo, then you've got to talk to the tech person, and then you've got to double check all of this. Whereas if that information was just kind of presented to you, it would make, I feel for all the tech vendors, because they're spending a lot of time talking to people like me. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy.
Look, I was talking to a client the other day, housekeeping app, okay? And so she told me, the time to market for us is almost a year, from the moment we have the first interaction to the moment we actually sign the agreement. And I was trying to understand what's the problem here. And I started to talk to competitors, and they all gave me the same answer. And the problem is that exactly what you're saying. They got all these people demoing the product all over and over again, and everybody wants to be in the demo, but everyone goes at different speed. So it's very complicated. So on top of the availability bias, and then you got the integration problem, and then you got the training problem as well, that I think it's
but often you're speaking to a salesperson to begin with and not a tech person. So then they, they're selling you features and benefits, but you're kind of asking really specific questions, and then they have to go off and kind of reply. So it's it seems like an inefficient way of doing things to my mind. But that's
Jonathan, couldn't we think about trying to give more information about this software via messaging system like Whistle?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's definitely something that we kind of pondered at here at Whistle. When we were operating. We designed our technology was actually, we're a small team. Majority of our team went out and did the research from a product perspective. We built what the customer wanted. We would not just sit in a room and come up with ideas and think of, hey, we think this will be good, right? The majority of our features and our functionality and everything was based off of our customer feedback. So our customers were of extreme importance to us, and we took their feedback extremely highly. And most of the innovation that we would have, new functionality, new features, were all from our customers, right? Saying, hey, it would be really cool if you can do this, or if you just make this small change, right, it'll save me 2 hours of my day. So really, I think these technology companies should, open their ears and listen to their customers and really take that feedback to heart and develop a product that is what their customers want, right? And I definitely think it's something that we strive for, and it's kind of one of our core values, and something that we're trying to provide to the market.
One thing I love about messaging systems is that on top of being very efficient, you got a lot of data, right? That you can go back and check. And so, for example, I don't know, let's say that somebody keeps writing you that, the light is not working in room 204, and maybe there's a problem there, okay? And you can fix that. And I remember a conversation I had with a close friend. She has a big, she's the founder of a big chatbot company in Japan. And she told me, what is the most asked question to our bot? And I said, and I was thinking about something super tech, right? And it was, is the tap water drinkable? So do you have any I'm sure you see a lot of data, and I'm sure you try to improve the system with the feedback you have from your clients and from guests as well. But you got any strange requests that you dealt with in the past, that you helped hotels dealing with Whistle?
I think from any kind of technology vendor perspective, you are going to get those kind of outlier requests, right? For things of they're just going to be so odd, and but you have to tell the customer in a sense, in obviously a nice way, where like, hey, we need to think about things that will not only work for your specific scenario, but what can work for the masses, right? Can we improve the experience and duplicate this process and provide value for multiple properties, not just one specific property with this specific scenario and this specific experience? So I definitely think that was one of the things that we would try to identify, and that's how we prioritized the feedback that we would get. And then obviously looking at data, right? That was another big thing that we did. We would look at all the data that was coming in, and we would make decisions based off of that, because data is not biased. The data doesn't have an opinion, right? It's data, and so we would definitely leverage that and utilize that to do that. I think through our messaging system, the top requested message I would see coming through is a request for towels. That was always the biggest thing that we would see. Coming in, and then after that, it kind of just varies based off of the property type and amenities and different things like that. Late checkout is another big one that people always ask for. So I think informing the industry and hoteliers that there's an opportunity to capitalize on revenue there, right? If you're just offering it for free or not offering it at all, is adding that to your upsell marketplace, or make through messaging, offering that and charging a small fee that covers your housekeeper's costs, and maybe the extra cost that you'll need for the next guest that's checking in, right? And that extra time that you'll need in order to turn that room over for the next guest to check in. So just things like that help us identify those type of data, helps us identify those areas, and also allows us to take that data back and inform the hoteliers, so we can instruct them on how to better operate their business and have more opportunity to generate some revenue.
And doesn't prove our point as well, because like, again, when we think about automation, now we're talking about messaging, but I think we can pretty much apply that to any kind of tech. We think, okay, nobody will use that, and the people that will use that will be like super geek. And then we look at, you just proved my point. You just look at the request and say, look, I just need an extra towel. It's easier for me to ask you by a messaging system that face to face. So we can say that we're still pretty biased when it comes to that, right?
Yeah, correct.
Catherine, I got one for you. That is it's more a personal question. But so you told me that the main idea is to create this art hotel, right? And I'm doing some stuff in the NFT space recently.
Yes.
Are you planning to do something like for example, I'm helping out this company now that is doing NFT physical frames. Like, okay, you buy an amazing NFT for 1,000 euros, and you want it on a beautiful frame. You just don't want it on your mobile phone. Are you thinking about integrating some kind of digital art as well in your property?
It's funny. It's something we were literally talking about the other day, and I was just interested to meaning to have a conversation. I know that Samsung TVs can display NFTs on them. I'm not sure if the hospitality versions can, and it's on my list of things.
I think they only charge, if I remember correctly, I think they only charge. Yeah. They don't have a wallet. They only charge like a JPEG or something, or they have a wallet that is not connected. So I'm talking about like, because a property like you, when I check the website, it looks amazing, and I wouldn't want to see an NFT on a Samsung frame. I would like something.
Yeah, we were just wondering whether is it possible to display NFT art in the rooms on the TV screen was a conversation that we were having last week. But but yeah, like we haven't. The art is more my husband's side of things. I'm the hotel technology person, but you'd have to ask Brian more about that.
But again, Jonathan, I think this could be another process that we can automate at some point. Well, let's say, for example, I want to go in my room, and I want to have on the walls my NFTs, right? We could automate, for example, the connection of my wallet directly to the frame. And
Sure.
that will be like an amazing experience, like you do now with streaming services. So again, I think the next 10 years will be very interesting when it comes to what we can do with the hospitality space and what people will want to do, because I think we're way less biased after the pandemic. We largely understood that we can automate a lot of the things we used to do manually. And again, the guest expectation is going higher and higher and higher. So, yeah. Okay, guys, that was a very interesting conversation. Catherine, I think I will call you at some point because I think we got very similar views on a few things. Jonathan, just what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you guys can contact me via email, jonathan.rojas@cloudbeds.com. If you guys ever need to.
Very good. And Catherine, what about you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn if anyone wants to have a chat. But yeah, we're hoping to open 2024. So
Are you accepting reservation already? Is the booking engine?
No, not yet. No.
Okay.
But yeah, but come to Dublin anyway. It's already great.
Yeah. I lived 7 years in Paris. Came back to Rome. I kind of like the sun, but on a sunny day, Dublin could be good.
Yeah, it's weird. I was in Ballydoyle this summer and it was glorious. That's all I can say. West Cork.
That's true. Well, look, I come like at least once a year. There's a music festival that I go every year in Dublin. So it's next time I will give you a call. Okay.
Do yeah. I'll buy you a pint of Guinness.
Yeah, sure. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for your time today. Jonathan, again, congratulations for Whistle, and congratulations to Cloudbeds for the acquisition. And Catherine, I wish you the best of luck in these next 2 years. I know I opened a couple of hotels myself. I remember how tough it was. So you need all the strength you can get now. And as usual, thanks to Jill, that is invisible like good technology, but she's always behind the curtain. She's really the Wizard of Oz, making everything possible. So thank you so much, and stay tuned for the next episode of Tech Stack in Hospitality. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.
You guys.
Bye.
Bye.